fix their broken relationships. And that's how I know that it is possible to completely transform your relationship, and I can give you the simple steps you need to get there. So just why do we feel unhappy in relationships? Well, you're not going to want to hear this, but chances are the problem has more to do with you than it does with your partner. Now, this is because the number one predictor of an unhappy relationship is unhappiness in life. So before you undertake my program to transform your relationship, you'd better make sure that your relationship needs to be transformed. Often, a relationship can be an easy scapegoat for deeper problems. So try looking at your life as a whole. Make a list of what's working and what's not. Now, your life is never going to be perfect, but if your life outside your relationship is bleak and depressing, then chances are your relationship isn't the problem. But what if your relationship is the problem? What can you do? Well, I'm a big proponent of the idea that the only person you can change is yourself. In any case, that's the best place to start. So take a look at your own behavior, being overly clingy and needy, or picking fights with your partner. Now, while none of this excuses your partner's actions, often negative behavior in a relationship becomes a cycle that's perpetuated by both parties. Take my client Katie, for example. She approached me worried that her relationship wasn't working out. Her boyfriend James would be warm and affectionate one day and cold as ice the next. He'd often reply to her heartfelt messages with one-word answers or not reply at all. She thought that they were heading for a breakup and fast. I told her to take some distance from the relationship, stop texting James so much, and focus on herself. Now, she thought I was nuts, but she was out of options, so she followed my advice. And that first day was the toughest. She thought if she didn't reach out, she might never hear from James again. She was about ready to curse my name and everything that I stood for when it all turned around. After just 48 hours of silence, her phone started blowing up, and it was James. He was racked with anxiety at the offer. So why does this work? Well, the thing that many people forget is that negative reinforcement rarely makes a difference in behavior. So if your partner is doing something that you don't like, nagging and complaining won't actually make any difference. It'll just make them resent you. So if complaining isn't the answer, what is? So here's a few steps that I recommend taking to increase your happiness in the relationship. Number 1, change your expectations. Now, I'm not telling you to forgive your partner's behavior or give them a free pass to do whatever they want. I'm just telling you that perspective has power. If we invest all of our emotional well-being into our relationship, we're giving it power to make or break our happiness. By understanding that a relationship is just one part of an overall happy and healthy life, we put things into perspective a bit. It doesn't mean that your problems aren't valid. It just means that you're putting less pressure on your relationship, and that can only help out in the long term. So what does this look like in practice? Well, here's a pattern of behavior that I find in many. I'm going to use an example. We'll call her Maria. Maria has identified a problem in her relationship. Her boyfriend, Adam, doesn't pay attention to her when she's talking about her day. Now, Maria doesn't know how to broach the problem with Adam. How can she make him realize that he's being selfish and correct his behavior? How can she bring it up without it spiraling into a huge fight? Paralyzed with indecision, Maria chooses to keep the problem inside and not bring it up. But the problem doesn't go away. It simply lies dormant. Now, whenever Maria talks about her day, she's mentally keeping score. Did Adam look at his phone? Did he ask her how her big presentation at work went? Now, these simple everyday conversations become a source of tension and stress for Maria. And Adam has no idea any of this is even going on. So what went wrong? Well, certainly some of the blame is on Adam for not being attentive to his partner and practicing active listening. But Maria's actions have only compounded the problem and led to more resentment and hurt feelings than were necessary. So instead, I told Maria to take a good look at the underlying. She doesn't feel like she has a social outlet when it comes to her career. She tells me that Adam is very attentive in other ways, but clearly isn't that interested in this specific area. So that's why my advice to Maria was to look elsewhere and have these conversations. So that's why my advice to Maria was to look elsewhere to have these kinds of conversations. Maria instantly thought of her mother, who always enjoys talking about work. So she made an effort to call her mother a couple times a week on her drive home from work. Now Maria feels listened to, and at the same time, by taking this pressure off her romantic relationship, she feels closer to Adam than ever. And as a bonus, her and her mother are learning more about one another. And it really is a win-win. Now, number 2, control conflict. So differing priorities and opinions in a relationship lead to conflict. This is unavoidable. But conflict has the potential to grow out of control and dwarf the original problem. So instead, handle your conflict with care and work towards compromise. Focus on listening and never speak in absolutes. 3, have the tough conversations. So I recommend against nagging and complaining. It just isn't the way forward in a relationship. But the same is true for the opposite. You can't keep your problems bottled up to avoid a fight. Instead, have the difficult conversations that you've been avoiding. Share your feelings with your partner and listen to their perspective. I promise you that it's scarier in your head. And often, all it takes to completely transform your relationship is to open up. Just make sure that you control this conflict and you don't let it spiral out of control. There are ways to have these conversations that will actually bring you two closer together. Having trouble connecting with your partner? Afraid that the spark is going out? Go to romancebrad.com right now for a free video presentation about how to take your relationship to the next level. I reveal the 3 pillars of a perfect relationship. Now, this advice is for you whether you've been together for weeks or 20 years. Again, just go to romancebrad.com. Number 4, stop. Now, this is one of the best pieces of advice that I can give you. Stop digging. They say that when you're a hammer, everything starts to look like a nail. Well, when you're a naturally anxious person, you can find problems in your life where there really are none and put all of your focus into them. Suddenly, your happy and healthy relationship becomes a source of frustration and sadness that you can't escape. Instead, be grateful for what you have. Understand that your relationship is never going to be 100% perfect. This is simple human nature. Relationships are the joining of 2 to make 1, and this is a messy process where some pieces get left out. So look elsewhere in your life to fulfill these needs, and you'll see your relationship improve effortlessly. All right, guys, I'm Brad Browning again, and thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you're looking to make your relationship the best it can be, just go to romancebrad.com. Thanks so much for watching.